The full moon dominated the night sky like a brilliant watchful eye, casting the plains in a cold spectral light. A chilling wind blew from the north, carrying the scent of damp earth and trampled grass. The tension in the air was palpable. In the distance, Midnight Bastion loomed like a dark shadow against the horizon. Its obsidian walls reflected the faint moonlight while torches flickered along its battlements like trapped stars. In the rebel camp, men and women adjusted their armor and checked their weapons in a tense silence. General Aldrich, an imposing figure with gray hair and a scar that crossed his face, walked among the ranks offering words of encouragement. His heavy leather boots creaked with each step, but his voice was firm and steady. "This night we fight not for ourselves," he proclaimed, his tone cutting through the cold like a finely honed blade. "We fight for those who cannot, for our families, for our children, for the freedom that has been stolen from us. The bastion will fall tonight." A murmur of approval rippled through the ranks. Soldiers, farmers, and mercenaries alike raised their swords, spears, and bows in response. It was a makeshift army, but the fire in their eyes was enough to ignite the spirit of any who witnessed it. The first charge. When the trumpets sounded, the rebels emerged from the mist like a torrent. The terrain was uneven, dotted with hills and hidden trenches, but they advanced with determination. The catapults fired first. Heavy stones wrapped in flaming pitch arced through the sky like miniature meteors, slamming into the bastion's walls with deafening explosions. Fragments of rock and fire scattered, illuminating the night. From atop the walls, the bastion's defenders responded. Black arrows rained down like a deadly storm, finding their marks among the rebel ranks. The screams of the wounded and the thunder of shields blocking projectiles filled the air. Despite the initial losses, the rebels pressed on. Their battering rams, massive logs reinforced with iron, began pounding the main gates with a relentless, terrifying rhythm, each impact echoing like a heartbeat in the dark. Amid the chaos, one figure stood out. Kayla, an archer renowned for her deadly aim, led a group of sharpshooters from the rear. Her arrows flew swift and true, targeting the most dangerous defenders, gunners, and commanders. Her hands were a blur of motion, and her eyes, two wells of unshakable focus. Every arrow she released struck its target with near supernatural precision. The duel of champions. As the rebels gained ground, the bastion's gates finally gave way with a resounding roar. The battering rams had done their work, and a breach opened in the imposing fortress. But before the rebels could surge through, a figure emerged from the shadows. Captain Valthor, a warrior feared even by his own men. His black armor reflected the nearby flames, and in his hand, he wielded a great sword that seemed capable of cleaving steel itself. Valthor didn't wait for the enemy to come to him. With a roar that rose above the din of battle, he charged into the rebel line. Each swing of his sword was like the hammer of an angry god, felling several soldiers with each sweep. The rebels faltered, unsettled by the sheer ferocity of his attack. Aldrich did not hesitate. Drawing his long sword, he advanced toward Valthor. The two warriors clashed in the heart of the breach, their weapons colliding with a sound that echoed across the battlefield. It was a duel of brute strength against refined technique. Aldrich was quick and calculating, while Valthor fought with the raw power and fury of a beast. Sparks flew every time their blades met, and the soldiers around them paused their combat, mesmerized by the intensity of the fight. Finally, with a masterful twist, Aldrich disarmed Valthor, his sword flying through the air before crashing to the ground. Wounded but unyielding, Valthor launched a final attack with his bare hands, but Aldrich was quicker. With a clean, decisive strike, he drove his blade through the captain's chest, ending his reign of terror. With Valthor's death, the defenders' morale began to waver. The rebels seized the moment to push deeper into the bastion. The narrow streets and dark corridors became scenes of brutal close-quarters combat. Blood mixed with the water flowing through the gutters, and battle cries echoed off the obsidian walls. Kayla led her team toward the central tower, where the enemy commanders were attempting to regroup. With swift and precise movements, they ascended the spiral stairs, taking out guards with lethal efficiency. When they reached the top, they found the commanders entrenched, but their resistance didn't last long. Kayla, with one final arrow, brought down the remaining leader, sealing the victory. Below, in the central courtyard, Aldrich's forces ensured that no enemy remained standing. At last, when the final enemy banner fell, a triumphant roar erupted from the rebel ranks. They had achieved the impossible. Midnight Bastion, a fortress deemed impenetrable, was now under their control. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, its first rays illuminated the battlefield. The bodies of the fallen, both friends and foes, lay as somber reminders of the price of victory. Yet the rebel flag now flew over the bastion, a symbol of hope for all who had fought and those who awaited word of the battle. Aldrich, bloodied and dust-covered, stood atop the walls, gazing out over the field where he had led his army. Kayla joined him, her bow in hand and an expression of exhaustion and pride on her face. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Aldrich replied, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "But this is just the beginning. The real fight is still ahead." Midnight Bastion had fallen, but the road to freedom was still long and fraught with danger. Yet that night, for the first time in years, the rebels felt that hope was stronger than fear.